Here we are. So thank you everyone for joining, and yeah, nice to see everyone. So the session theme is the full moon in Capricorn happening on July the 3rd. And I'm pretty sure that's globally. Well, I guess in some places it wouldn't be July the 3rd, but in ET it's July the 3rd. And it's polarity is Cancer, so the sun is in Cancer. And I did actually do a little PowerPoint, so I'm going to share that just as a brief introduction, because I didn't, sorry, I have a mosquito here and I'm just trying to avoid getting bit. So I didn't, I really wanted to bring in the aspect of, there's my slideshow, of the polarity, because I just find that when we're working with that concept of polarities, you know, the opposition gives us an understanding. And so we have a few things. I just pulled up a chart from AstroSeek on the full moon, and this is the symbol of Capricorn, and I've circled where the moon is here, and then polar opposite to that in opposition is the sun, as well as Mercury, and they are both in Cancer, in the sign of Cancer. So when we're looking at really opposites on the astrological chart, we call it a polarity or an axis. And because really, when we're looking at Cancer, we're looking at more of a personal sign and personal planets. And then when we get into Capricorn, we're looking at more universal. So it does reflect a level of development, and it can really highlight the different aspects. So I just thought I would share that with you as well. And then I give you a whole bunch of information. So I just really wanted to highlight the qualities of both Cancer and Capricorn. And I'm going to put this in a little bit of a different context in a moment, but you know, when we look at, I think traditionally in different, depending on who you're studying from in astrology, Cancer is tending to relate to the mother archetype and the home, the fourth astrological house. So it's like our security in terms of time of development. It's definitely childhood, and often it relates to our attachments to our home, to our mother, emotional. So it's a water sign, and it's ruled by the moon. So it reflects our emotions, often our subconscious. In the BodyTalk system, we correlate the sign of Cancer and the fourth house with the spleen energy. And so spleen in traditional Chinese medicine also relates to subconscious mind, and certainly certain more of those watery elements in the body, like the lymphatic system and our emotional state and emotional movement. And so hydration. And then there is an association as well with the hypothalamus in the brain. And so the hypothalamus works, most of you probably heard of the pituitary gland as part of the endocrine system, often referred to as the master controller. The hypothalamus, we could say it's called the moon in relation to, say, the thalamus, which is the sun, which represents in a way our personality. So the moon is more of the feminine aspect of that, and it really has many different feedback loops. So it works with our fight, flight, freeze response. It has all of these feedback loops to provide balance and homeostasis. So there is a correlation with Cancer and that as well, just by virtue of it being ruled by the moon. And so then I also included a few other things. So, you know, you can really, if you start looking at the Cancer qualities of this emotion, what it's seeking, emotional fulfillment, nurturing, security. In a way, it's like it provides a womb right? The safety of a womb and the security of that. So that's part of the energy of this. And then you move into Capricorn being related to, and the ruler of the sign of the 10th astrological house, that polar opposite. This is often really, well, it is related to more paternal structures and authority, and like even governmental structures, business structures, and organization. Capricorn in of itself is so if we're looking at Cancer as more of an inward and the security that we're seeking, Capricorn is about taking a step out and moving towards our potential. I read a brief article. Well, the article itself wasn't that brief, but just briefly reviewed it. Carolyn Miss has quite a interesting document on all of the houses and, you know, in a sense, what they're striving towards. And so the Capricorn quality is definitely about, you know, moving into your potential, and responsibility is the theme with Capricorn. So, you know, and providing as well. So I wanted to bring the providing because, you know, here we have on the one hand with Cancer, this kind of nurturing security at home, providing this womb safe environment. Capricorn also is a provider in a way, but it tends to be more outward. So, you know, how can I provide for my family? How can I provide for my life in the future? How can I plan ahead to ensure my security? So you can see the correlation with these polarities and in a way the development of them. And I'm just gonna, I've got a whole bunch of emails coming in. I'm sorry about the beeps. I should have turned that off. But anyway, so I found this wonderful quote. It was again another article I read, and it was from a website that I read on occasion called the Wessex Astrologer. And so the author is Claire Martin, and she had done a series on these polarities and really looking at it from more of a psychological, but I just love this because it really looks at the relationship here. The well-balanced Cancer Capricorn axis is pairing, which is, you know, the Cancer aspect and responsible Capricorn, nurturing Cancer and providing, and then building strong structures and nourishing all the living things that live within those structures. So I just really wanted to share that with you because I really think that it, you know, in its highest expression, sums up the potential within this polarity. Also, the sort of yin and yang, masculine, feminine balance of this. So, you know, when we're looking at these, again, from a traditional perspective, I'm just going to take that off my screen if I can do that. Ooh, and then that's the next body talk session, but we'll talk about that in a minute. There we are. I'm going to stop share. So yeah, when we're talking about, you know, these masculine and feminine energies, they exist within all of us, whether a woman or a man or a mother or a father. Oftentimes, you know, a woman has to take on more of those sort of ambitious outward roles, and often males take more of those internal nurturing roles, right? So it's what exists within us, within all of us. So I just, again, wanted to share that because I think that this really is, in a way, a means of balancing that left-right brain that Dr. John Veldheim had referred to so much in BodyTalk, which is really, you know, harmonizing the different aspects of yin and yang within us. And so, so that was my introduction to this full moon. And so we'll go into the session. I just, I really am going to turn off my, sorry about the interruption here, but I just have to end that. There we go. I just want to turn off my email because it is interrupting us. Okay, so back at it. Yeah, so that, you know, I say this is the theme, but you never know what's going to come up in the session, right? Depending on what the group is really the priorities are through our group innate wisdom. So if everyone would like to take a few deep breaths, and you can tap into yeah, just how your body is feeling and invite that breath to move into any areas of attention. Even just the act of starting to observe that tension and start to breathe into that will start to shift that into a new space. So, okay. So the first thing that's coming up, it's coming up as a standalone technique, and it is the BodyTalk hydration technique. And so BodyTalk hydration technique is also part of the BodyTalk Access, which is like a one-day program that's taught for self-care. So typically I ask you, if you have a tissue or something like that, to just dip that in some water. If you don't have it around, that's okay. I'm just using a Q-tip, and then I just put a little over behind my left ear, over my thymus gland, and then into my navel. And we use the navel because it is such a strong energy center. It also reflects our relationship with the external world. And then placing your hands on the sides of your head to represent your limbic or emotional brain. And, you know, I did mention that hypothalamus, starting to take deep breaths, and then you can move one hand to the back of your head as if you were doing cortices, and then begin to tap over your head, over your heart, and over your navel. Doing that a couple of times with this hand position. So yes, so part of that limbic brain, and then bringing your hands just back to your side again, and then up into the next position over your head. The hypothalamus also helps to feedback and set, you know, our body's thirsts level, how we're hydrating. So this, there is probably something about this. And then the emotional aspect of hydration. So when I think of joy, I always think that it's juicy. It's, you know, when you think about joy, you think about things that are lush and full, and that's very, they're hydrated. And so there's an aspect of this emotional balancing with hydration in really filling you up, in a sense, with more potential for the expression of joy. Right. If you're still tapping, that's great. I'm just going to find out if there's any other anything else within hydration. No. And so I'm going to go into the next formula. Okay, so I have a theme coming in. So the theme is actually the 10th astrological house, so the house of Capricorn. And so I say it's a broader theme. I am getting a little more specific in this. And there's a further definition on this of a natural consciousness of responsibility. So it's interesting because the last session, we did bring in responsibility as well. So when I'm talking about a natural consciousness of responsibility, it's, you know, your ability to respond to life, to commitments, your beliefs about your commitments and responsibilities, and are you burdened by them? Do you have emotions about them? There can be resentment, all those things. So when we're working with this natural consciousness, it's really offering the potential of lifting up into this highest expression of the 10th house and responsibility, which ultimately is like, part of it is this being able to just simply take practical action, to create a plan, to be able to prioritize within your responsibilities. So that's the broader context for this next formula. Okay, so no permissions, and we're going into. Okay, so within this, we're going into the energy of the liver and also the physical liver. So I'm really looking at balancing the liver at all of these different levels, at least initially. And so one of the roles of the liver is to help our body to store emotionally charged active memories. If we haven't been able to fully synthesize the emotions about some kind of strong memory, then our liver will help to store that. And in this sense, I'm actually linking into the liver's role in storing into the muscles, storing active memory within the muscle tissue. And so the priority is to help to open the potential for some release within this of these active memories. And I may get more specific. I'm just going to find out. So it is about these active memories, and it is active memories, beliefs related to responsibility. And there's further on this that it's fear about responsibilities. So this is really the energy of this this kind of insecurity, this fourth house, like, can I do this? Is this too much for me? Like the fear of making mistakes. Like, so at a broader level, fear about responsibility and shifting in the active memories of those as they relate to your muscle system. And then further on, this is more specifically hydrating your muscular system. Okay, and so I'm going to continue on with the muscular system, and I'm going into a cellular level. Muscle cells fascinate me because, you know, many of them are just so long, and they have so many mitochondria in them, because they require such energy, you know, those kind of bursts of energy. So they're just these amazing, amazing cells. So I'm going into a cellular focus. And into the mitochondria. Within the mitochondria is a definition of productivity. And there's a link, and I'm staying within the muscle cells. To the peroxisomes. So the peroxisomes, in a way, are like, I guess they could be looked upon as part of the intercellular lymphatic system, because they help to cleanse the cell. And so linking into these peroxisomes in their cleansing capacity. And this is further defined by the weight of emotion. And so If you're not doing some deep breaths right now, I invite you to take a couple of deep breaths with this. And so I'm parceling that subsession on the liver. And I have another link. And so I'm linking from the liver to the spleen. I did a study group with Todd and Angela Atkins, and they do these wonderful BodyTalk study groups on different themes in BodyTalk, and one of them was on the spleen. And Angela, she said, the personality of the spleen, I may have mentioned this before, I love it. It's just like, is everybody okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? How are you doing? Is everybody okay? It's like the little worry word. And it always stayed with me, right? Because it's like, no matter how confident and competent and all these things we are, all of us have a little bit of that aspect in us, right? So going from this balancing of this fear of responsibilities in the liver as it relates to the storage of active memories in your muscular system, and then linking over into this spleen energy. And what comes up here is security and safety. And so this is part of that earth element, the stomach being the yang, and then the spleen being the yin. And so with that, wanting that vessel, that structure, that security. And so that is the theme or aspect of the spleen that's coming up. Okay, so within this, I'm actually going into clearing an energy form. We call these matrices in BodyTalk. We use matrix for a number of different things, but it's like an energy form that is impeding that expression, or of a sense of security, being secure. So I just have to tap into and it relates to self-worth. So this is it relates to self-worth as comparing yourself with others. So when we compare ourselves with others, I am getting a sense that it relates to childhood, whether you had siblings or just other little people around you that you were comparing yourself to. And so comparing can be a good thing because it can help us to grow and try to achieve more, but it can also be detrimental. And that is what we're looking at here, is helping to really balance that as it reflected in your development of self-worth, and then as that reflects in your sense of security. So clearing this from the spleen. And from the local nerve supply, takes me actually into the spinal peripheral nerves that innervate your spleen, and balancing from those nerves, that nerve supply. And then also from your solar plexus chakra, so your center of receiving and confidence and power. So really clearing that energy from your power chakra. So we're going to tap this formula out, and the hand positions for this are liver, so just under your right rib cage, to your spleen under your left rib cage. And you can just lift one hand up and tap, or you can just hold and take deep breaths. So once again, the broader theme of the 10th astrological house, and then going into this balancing on this natural consciousness of responsibility, shifting active emotional memories from your liver and from your muscles, balancing your muscles support that at the cellular level, and then helping to clear out an older pattern back into childhood that to further support a sense of self-worth and feeling secure within yourself, which goes back to relating to your commitments and your responsibilities. Okay, so the next thing that's coming up is still within that theme of responsibility and 10th astrological house. As it's expressed in your body. And, you know, one of the areas that we often correlate to responsibilities, oh, I can't shoulder the burden. Oh, he's shouldering a lot, or, you know, Atlas with the weight of the world on his shoulders. So there's a lot of how we relate to our burdens and our responsibilities in how that can express itself in the health and flexibility of our shoulders. And then how is that going to influence your posture? So we're actually going to do reciprocals. So many of you are familiar with the BodyTalk reciprocals. They are buddies in our body. So, you know, from, let's say, when you're moving, when you're walking through life and you move this arm out, the opposite leg moves out, and that keeps you in balance. And the opposite. So there's all these sort of opposites that are supporting each other. There's a bigger reflection that's happening here with this opposition of Cancer and Capricorn. And in the more, you know, the structure as a container for the emotion and the security. So there's this reflection in this supporting the shoulders to your hips. So I'm just going to find out if there's any further details about, we're going to do the group of 4. So we're going to do shoulder tip to hip tip, or shoulder top to hip top, shoulder tip, shoulder front and shoulder back, all to the opposite hip. But I just want to find out if there's a little more detail on that other than the overall theme. And there's the definition is integrity. Oh yeah, so this integrity, this definition of integrity comes up from the earth element. And integrity is, you know, in keeping our word. And when we think often of keeping our word to others, but it's also in keeping our word to ourselves. And I saw this wonderful post on Facebook. I didn't even think to share it, but it was, you know, when you say yes to other people, are you saying no to yourself? And I just thought, oh, you know, when we tend to be giving and we want to give, and we'll say yes to something, but then by virtue of doing that, we're actually draining our own energy. So we're out of integrity. So this is about bringing more awareness in commitments and responsibilities, and the hips and their role in support, and feeling supported and supporting ourselves, and the integrity within that. Okay, so I love this. Thank you guys. Like I just love this because it's just makes so much sense as this physical expression. So what we're going to do is we're going to put one hand over your shoulder tip, shoulder top, and then the other hand on the top of your hip. Take deep breaths, the opposite hip, should I say. So if you're doing the right shoulder, you're going to put your hand like really like this over your left hip, and then take a nice deep breath and tapping over your head, over your heart, and over your navel. And then I return my hand, another deep breath, head, heart, navel. And then I change hands to the opposite shoulder, top to the opposite hip. Deep breaths over your head, over your heart, and over your navel, and then once again. So as we're doing this, understanding that this whole line of communication between these two areas is being enhanced. The shoulder and the hip are communicating at a deeper level. So now what you're going to do is just move your hand to the tip and move your hand down to the hip tip. So we're going to tap out this tip, and there's lots of different meridians that are also running through these areas that support the health of these different areas, as well as the communication between them, and then switching to the other side. And then sliding your hand down to the front of your shoulder and the front of your hip, continuing with the deep breathing, imagining a line moving between your hands, connecting all of that energy and body awareness with the bigger theme of integrity. And then once you've done 2 breaths, moving to the opposite shoulder front, to the opposite hip front, and tapping deep breaths, imagining that line connecting those 2 areas. Okay, and then the next one is moving your hand to the back of your shoulder and to really your sit bone. So just you can kind of sit on your hand. And if you're not able to do this, don't. Like if you just don't have the mobility, that's okay. You can simply keep your hands on the front of your body with the focus on balancing the back of your shoulder to the back of your hip. You know, you think about as you sit and move, how the back of your shoulder and hips are always sort of communicating to support your posture and your balance, and related to even your core, and then changing to the opposite side, continuing with deep breaths. All right, so what's next? Let's find out. Okay, so the next thing that's coming up, I really am, for a change, staying on theme. So what's coming up is Saturn, Capricorn, the ruling planet is Saturn. Saturn governs our skeletal system. And so the skeletal system is what is coming in here. So life's framework. So, you know, what is your life's framework? Do you feel stable? And even within this, if things change, are you able to adapt your framework? Is it malleable? And then how is that reflected? Reflected in your skeletal system. So that's sort of the information that's coming in. And now I'm just going to tap in to find out what technique or type of formula is ready for balancing. Okay, so the first thing that is coming in is hydration, but it is a hydration within the marrow of your bones. So within the marrow of your bones. So the marrow is where all the cells are created, where your blood cells are created, stem cells, immune cells, and just at such a, you know, an essential core level, right? It's like, in a way, continually producing new life within your blood, new nourishment, new awareness within the bones. So this hydration And the hydration is defined by supporting cell production, creating cells. That is the definition. So there's a parallel coming up on that hydration in your bones, and I'm bringing in another system, and this is the German New Medicine. I think Leslie Deems, the doctor of Chinese medicine and body talker. We've talked a little bit about German New Medicine. I also found on the BodyTalk forum, Dr. Nancy Warner, who was a teacher and instructor in BodyTalk for many years, refer to Dr. Hammer and German New Medicine as something that has informed BodyTalk. So one of the things about German New Medicine is it very much like BodyTalk, it correlates physiological challenges with a specific area in the brain and a specific type of conflict. So I'm just going to narrow it down. I don't want to go too much into this, but what is coming up is value. It's beliefs about, it relates to self-worth with the spleen, but it's feeling of value. So there's this consciousness of value coming in for balancing throughout your skeletal system. Bringing in the energy and awareness of that German New Medicine in relation to this balancing, anchoring that into your heart for individuation. And then there's this further definition of repair. And I'm not getting any more details on this, just repair. And self-awareness. Okay, so I'm parceling that first part of this formula. There is a satellite, and it is a resource satellite. So an energy that's coming into that is a resource for this balancing. And it is Saturn. And it's Saturn's it's the organizational capacity of Saturn and reorganizational capacity of Saturn. And there's also this quality in Saturn. Honestly, I don't know that much about it all. It's just coming in, so I'm just going to trust it, about being able to build momentum. Okay, so it's like this momentum. Oh, okay, I get it now. Okay, well, I didn't actually, but so the momentum, it relates to the full moon and the awareness when it comes to value, to your value and your values and how they reflect in your bones and the health of your skeletal system. And also it's like this reflective quality of reflecting on what you have done. Like, what have I achieved, or what have I done to feel good about? And then continuing to build on that. And it's not even so much saying you have to go out and do more or make big plans. It's not about that. It's like, it's more about the wisdom inherent in that reflective ability of Saturn for helping to support this reorganization and this whole balancing within the bone level. And I have another link coming up here to that first part of the formula. So this is taking me into your the periosteum, so also part of the skeletal system, part of your bones. The periosteum is really a coating on your bones. And from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, it has, if the heart is sort of our center of awareness and knowledge and storage of that knowledge, then the periosteum represents more localized knowledge, and also a protective layer for your bones. And there's this level of communication from the periosteum to surrounding tissues, much like our cellular membranes have receptors and receive information and thus can respond. It's the same kind of idea with the periosteum. So I am going into this communication aspect. And it comes up very much like vibratory frequency. So it's like that expression, you feel it in your bones. And the bones are very dense, right? So there's this sort of deeper, almost like a drumbeat, vibratory quality that's coming up here in relation to that communication. And so I'm just going to work with this for a moment. Or just sit with this for a moment and just wait to see what is going to come in with this. Oh yeah, so this is a collective balancing, a collective consciousness balancing at the individual level. And so what I mean by that is, like, we all have bones. We all, we all have, we all have bones. We all have structure, we all have value, and we all connect. And so there's this further connection that's actually happening through the crown chakra in relation to this deep connective vibration that's coming up. It's almost like a music in a way. And so this is coming up as frequency repair, or really support healing within the periosteum. It kind of goes inwards and expands outwards and into that collective realm. Okay, we're going to tap this one in. So this, we're going to do hydration technique again. You can put some water on a Q-tip or a tissue, and the focus is your bone marrow and audiopoiesis, the cellular making new cells. And as it relates to that parallel, hands on the side of your head, to your value and values. And then this next, that Saturn coming in for building on momentum through reorganization, and then linking into the vibratory frequency in communication of this collective consciousness from and to your bones. So we all have these different sensory strengths. Some of us, I tend to say, I see a lot, or what's going to come up, and do I see it? So I use a lot of visuals, but we hear, some of us, have auditory or frequency. Some of us are more kinesthetic. So as I was tapping that last formula in, that's really what was coming up for me, for you, as a self care focus to tune into your bones at any of those sensory levels, and just to, be open to experiencing sound or visual, um, that frequency of regeneration that is continually happening at all times within your bones. And also at the level of how that connects you to others, at a really deep level. That's what I was really sensing is it's like, when we think about, if you want to look at it through the terms of evolution, right? Like, we all come from the same stuff, right? So there's something about that connectivity, that is, it seems to be really healing and supportive. So I'm just going to bring it up again, something else, because I've been just revisiting some of my recordings of Dr. John Veldheim's courses that I've done with him. And one of them that I went into recently, and so for those of you who don't know, Dr. John Veldheim founded the BodyTalk with Esther Veldheim. And so he's the sort of genius behind this work. And so one of the things that he was talking about when it came to our awareness was that we tend to think, we're up here, right? Our awareness tends to be up here. And so, but he's inviting you, in this lecture he's giving, to bring your awareness to other areas of your body, and imagine that all of your senses are experiencing through that area of your body. So in this sense, I'm talking about your bones, imagining what it would feel like if you were your bone, because you are your bone. You just, have the opportunity to actually go in and even imagine, okay, if I was in my bone, like, can I move a lot here? Or, do I feel constricted, or do I feel spacious? Is there lots of activity, or is it moving slowly? What does it sound like? So, really, and this will, just like help you to really connect with that deeper energy and change your perspective, on certain things. You could even want to look at a problem or a relationship challenge by moving into a new area of your body and trying to look at it from the perspective of, say, your left knee. How would my left knee perceive this problem if I were in my left knee? Because you're really literally shifting your perspective in that. You're forcing yourself to look at something from a new perspective because you've just moved. It's like, even if you're like, okay, I'm looking at something this way. Oh, I use Mindscape a lot. So I was looking at a problem, say it was a challenge, whatever it was, in one way. And I kept noticing that when I would bring that problem into my imagination, and for me in my Mindscape, it would be on this side, on my right side. And I said, well, what happened if I moved it over there? And so I moved it over there, and it really started to shift externally, like in real time. And even by moving it over there and seeing what I was seeing, it has to do with a person that I care deeply about. All of a sudden, like, there was so much more energy and there was more color. So I just needed to change that perspective. So I'm just sharing these things with you because they're such gifts. Because it's like, oftentimes we're problem solving, we're trying to figure things out, and we're up here. And that is great. It's wonderful to have wonderful minds, but the subtle energy of BodyTalk works beyond BodyTalk. So by using a tool like that, your intuition, and changing your perspective, that actually starts to change and shift things in your reality just by virtue of you shifting your perspective. So I just sharing that with you because I just found it I find these things so helpful. in my day-to-day. And it's like, yeah, I just had a body talk session today, a private one, and I can't live without them. But yeah, just sharing those with you because they're tools that you can also use in your day-to-day. So that is our session for today. And thank you everyone for joining me. And I will do the next session. When did I say it was? This is why I write it down. July the 13th. So it will actually be before the new moon in Cancer. So it's like, I think it's like 4 or 5 days before, but that's fine, right? Because then we can all be all ready for it. So yeah, it's on July 13th, which is a Thursday night. So in a few weeks from today. And everyone enjoy the full moon energy and your great value. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay. Thank you. Oh yeah, you're so very welcome. Thank you. You're so welcome. Thanks for joining. Nice to see some new faces as well. Bye for now.